I'm going to tell you about one of my favorite writing stories. When I was in college, I took a creative writing course. And in this course, we had to read each other's short stories outside of class. And then we had to come in prepared to talk about each other's short stories. But when your short story was talked about, you as the author were not allowed to say anything. You just had to sit there and take your medicine. You had to sit down and take notes. And I remember when it came my time to come in and listen to them talk about my story. And I was so nervous. And I remember sitting at my desk and just sort of like feeling like I was leaving my body. My skin was flushed. My hands were shaking as I lifted my pen. And I got out my note paper and I was ready to start jotting down some notes. And I was especially nervous because the other short stories that had been read before mine that people talked about, the class just trashed them. They just had all of these things they say that the author really needed to work on. And then mine came up. And the professor kind of like started his introduction. He looked over at me, then he looked at the rest of the class and he said, "You can all learn something from Mark about creating interesting characters and building character arcs." And I remember just being stunned. Because at this point, I had been trying to get agents for a while. I'd been getting rejected a lot. I had to put multiple books away. And I had this really fierce inner critic in my head that was always telling me that I wasn't a good writer, that I didn't know what I was doing, that I was a hack. And then it wasn't just the professor. The whole class started talking about my short story. And they loved it. And they were talking about my characters in my short story like it was one of the short stories, the published short stories that we had read as a class and analyzed. It was a surreal moment. I've kept all the notes from that day. I still go back and look at them when I'm feeling down. It was a moment in my life when I realized I could do this. I can push through this. I can become a published author. It took a few years after that and a couple more books put away, but I got an agent. And last year I signed a book deal and my book's coming out next spring. Incredible.